Welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to learn English through a very special story, the untold story of the first American Thanksgiving. This story will help you upgrade your listening skills using clear, pre-intermediate A2 level words. As you listen, please pay close attention to the way my voice changes with each emotion. Remember to practice repeating after me to improve your pronunciation and natural rhythm. Now get comfortable, relax your mind, and let's begin our journey back to the year 1620. A long time ago, in September 1620, a small wooden ship named the Mayflower left England. There were 102 passengers on this crowded ship, searching for a new home where they could practice their religion freely. The Atlantic Ocean was not friendly at all during this time of the year. Huge dark waves crashed against the sides of the ship, making it shake violently day and night. Many of the people became very sick, and they had to spend almost all of their time in the dark, cold spaces below the wooden deck. They did not have fresh food or clean water, which made their long journey incredibly difficult and dangerous. Remember, these travelers did not know if they would ever see dry land again. Listen carefully to how hard their lives were during these long months at sea. The wind howled constantly, tearing at the large white sails of the ship. Children cried in the dark, while their worried parents prayed for safety and a better future. They were on the ocean for more than 2 long, painful months. Finally, in November, a lookout shouted with excitement, "Land ahead!" Everyone ran upstairs to look at the beautiful green and gray coastline of Cape Cod. They were happy to be alive, but they were also very afraid because they were looking at a wild, unknown world. The winter was starting, and they had no houses, no food, and no friends in this new country. Think about how lonely they must have felt in that quiet, frozen forest. Try to feel their fear as they dropped the heavy anchor into the cold water. This was the beginning of their new lives in a place they would call Plymouth. They hoped that their hard times were finally over, but the cold winter was just beginning. The first winter in Plymouth was a terrible nightmare for the English travelers. The weather was extremely cold, with thick snow covering the ground and freezing winds blowing from the ocean. They did not have time to build strong, warm wooden houses before the deep snow arrived. Most of the people had to live on the damp ship, where sickness spread very quickly from person to person. More than half of the travelers died during these few dark, freezing months. Husbands lost their wives, and children lost their parents in the cold. Imagine how sad it was to bury your loved ones in the frozen ground at night. Notice the quiet sadness in this part of our historical story. Every day, the survivors looked at the dark forest, wondering if they would survive another week. They had almost no food left, and they did not know how to hunt for wild animals in this thick, snowy forest. Only a few healthy people remained to take care of all the sick and dying travelers. Yet, even in their darkest moments, they did not give up hope of building a new home. When spring finally came in March, only 51 of the original passengers were still alive. They were weak, hungry, and deeply tired from the long fight to stay alive. Take a deep breath and think about their amazing strength. The warm sun slowly melted the white snow, and green grass began to grow. For the first time in many months, the travelers felt a small spark of joy. But they still faced a giant problem. They did not know how to grow food in this sandy, different soil. Remember, without a successful crop in the summer, they would not survive the next winter. They needed help, and they needed it very quickly. One warm spring morning in March, a tall Native American man walked bravely into the small Plymouth village. The English travelers were very surprised and afraid when they saw him. They immediately reached for their guns, not knowing what this strange visitor wanted. But the man smiled warmly, held up his hand, and said in clear English, "Welcome." His name was Somerset, and he had learned some English words from European fishermen who visited the coast years before. Imagine how shocked the settlers were to hear their own language in this wild forest. Listen to the excitement and surprise in this wonderful moment. Somerset was very kind, and he stayed with the settlers for the night, talking about the land and its history. A few days later, he returned with another Native American man named Squanto. Squanto spoke English even better than Somerset because he had lived in England for some years. Squanto's life story was full of trouble, but he wanted to help these struggling, tired people. He saw that the English settlers were starving and did not know how to live in this land. Pay attention to how the story changes from sadness to hope because of this new friendship. Squanto decided to stay with the settlers and teach them how to survive. He taught them how to plant corn, which was a native crop they had never seen before. He showed them how to find sweet berries in the woods and how to catch fish in the fast rivers. Thanks to Squanto, the settlers finally began to feel at home in this giant country.
Squanto did something else that saved the settlers. He introduced them to Massasoit, the great leader of the Wampanoag people. The Wampanoag had lived on this land for thousands of years, and they were very strong and wise. At first, both sides were very careful and did not trust each other. Feel the quiet tension in the air during this important meeting. Massasoit brought many of his brave warriors, and the English governor, John Carver, wore his best clothes to show respect. They sat together on a green hill, eating and talking through Squanto, who translated their words. Both groups realized they needed each other. The settlers wanted peace and food, while the Wampanoag wanted strong allies to protect them from other tribes. On that spring day, they made a formal treaty of peace and friendship. They promised not to hurt each other, and they agreed to help each other if anyone started a war. This peace treaty lasted for more than 50 years, which was a very long time. Think about how beautiful it is when different cultures decide to live in peace together. The agreement brought a wonderful feeling of safety to the small wooden village of Plymouth. Now the settlers could work in their green fields without being afraid of the dark forest. The English children played safely near the trees, and the Native Americans visited the village to trade animal skins for metal tools. The two groups began to understand each other's ways of living. Hopefully, summer brought long, warm days, and the corn grew tall and green under the bright sun. Excitedly, for the first time, the settlers looked forward to the winter with hope instead of fear. In October 1621, the settlers gathered their very first harvest, and it was a great success. They had plenty of golden corn, sweet pumpkins, and healthy vegetables to fill their wooden storehouses. Governor William Bradford declared a special time of celebration to thank God for their survival and their food.
They did not call it Thanksgiving back then. They just called it a harvest celebration. Imagine the sweet smell of roasting meat and fresh bread filling the cool autumn air. The settlers went out into the woods and shot wild ducks, geese, and turkeys for the feast. Governor Bradford sent an invitation to Massasoit to join them in this happy celebration. The settlers were surprised when Massasoit arrived with 90 of his men. There were actually more Native American guests than English settlers at the feast. Remember, only about 50 English settlers had survived the winter, so this was a very big crowd. Massasoit brought 5 deer as a gift, which they roasted over big open fires in the middle of the village. For 3 whole days, the two groups ate, played games, and ran races together. The English soldiers showed their guns, and the Wampanoag men showed their skills with bows and arrows. Listen to the laughter and joy in this famous historical event. They ate delicious food, laughed together, and enjoyed the peaceful autumn weather. This was a moment of true friendship where two completely different worlds came together to share a meal. It was a rare time of peace and happiness in a history that would later become very difficult. But for those 3 days, there was only friendship, food, and quiet thankfulness in Plymouth. This is the story of the first Thanksgiving, but the true history is much deeper than just a 3-day feast. Many people think of this event as the start of a long friendship, but it was also a very complicated moment in history. As years passed, more and more ships arrived from England, bringing thousands of new settlers who wanted more land. Slowly, the peace between the settlers and the Native Americans began to break, leading to difficult wars. It is important to remember both the beautiful moments of peace and the sad moments of history. Listen carefully as we think about what this story means for us today. The holiday we celebrate today became official many years later during a very difficult time in American history. In 1863, during the American Civil War, President Abraham Lincoln declared Thanksgiving a national holiday. He wanted to give the divided country a day to come together, heal, and find peace. Today, Thanksgiving is a time for families and friends to gather, share a big meal, and say thank you for the good things in their lives. It is a time of warm kitchens, happy laughter, and soft candlelight. As you practice your English today, think about the things you are thankful for in your own life. Learning a new language is a long journey, just like the journey of the Mayflower. Be proud of your hard work and how much your listening skills have improved today. Thank you so much for listening to this untold story of history with me. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share it with your friends. Have a wonderful day. Keep practicing your English, and I will see you in our next story.